Hola a todos, ¿qué tal estáis? Espero que todos muy bien. ¿Hemos visto aquí? Sí, estamos en directo. Eh, Hola, ¿qué tal? Soy Tiago. Aquí estamos una vez más en nuestras lives, aquí de YouTube, donde vamos a hablar sobre temas de la actualidad, sobre temas en general. Y bueno, para los que no conocen todavía, esto aquí es la plataforma de Cambly, ¿vale? Aquí en Cambly nosotros hacemos cursos de inglés privados con tutores americanos o ingleses o australianos, bueno, tutores nativos de países que hablan inglés. Y bueno, esto aquí, si estás aquí buscando aprender inglés, estás intentando mejorar un poco lo que sea que estés buscando, bueno, bienvenido. Y estamos aquí. Y hoy vamos a hablar de un tema muy interesante, ¿vale? Pero antes de empezar, quiero deciros que los que queráis tomar una clase gratuita, tenéis aquí abajo en el enlace de un código promocional. Entonces, para todos los que queréis empezar y coger este código promocional y empezar y tomar una clase gratuita, ¿vale? Entonces, os espero ahí y si queréis tomar una clase con el tutor de hoy, podéis también, aquí hay el enlace de él y, bueno, al decorrer de esto vamos a hablar más, ¿vale? Y bueno, hoy es un tema muy interesante. Vamos a hablar de los deportes. Los deportes en Estados Unidos, los más famosos, bueno, los que son todos mundialmente conocidos, o los que tampoco no tanto, y algunos tips y curiosidades y cosas muy interesantes de este mercado de los deportes en Estados Unidos. Entonces hoy vamos a hablar con un tutor nativo de Estados Unidos y vamos a ver qué nos dice. Si queréis, poner los comentarios aquí al lado y vamos a contestar tanto el posible, ¿vale? So, let's move on to English. So, hi Guy, how are you?
Hey Tiago, hey everyone at home. I'm doing great. How about yourself?
Very good as well. Yeah, have been great now. Summer is starting here in Madrid, so yeah, things are pretty nice, pretty better.
Awesome.
So, for anyone who is not familiar with us or anyone, probably there's someone here who already watched some of our last sessions, but for those who don't, please introduce yourself, say a little bit about you, and so for the people who wants to know a little bit more about the tutor that we have here today.
Sure. Yeah, hi everyone. My name is Guy Moraes. I am a Brazilian American tutor here in Cambly. I am an artist. I went to school for fine arts in painting, and today I am mostly focusing on my tattooing career. So I'm a tattoo artist and also a tutor on Cambly, which I teach pretty much full time, especially since the whole Corona situation and the quarantine. I've been teaching a lot of classes. So please, after this live session, if you're interested, if you would like to have a chat and learn some English and some vocabulary, please schedule a class with me. It would be an honor. Mm-hmm. And yeah, I love doing these live sessions, so I'm really excited for this one. I'm a fan of sports. I've been playing sports all my life. Can't say I'm great at all of them, but it's a lot of fun.
No, definitely is. So you grew up in your university. You did in Miami, right?
Yeah. So I went to a fine art school, so there was no real team sports. It was just a lot of art and a lot of studying. But all the other big universities in Miami, there's some very famous ones for sports, like the the University of Miami. My brother, he graduated from UF, which also has a very big sports scene, the Gators. So I went to see him in college a couple of times to visit, and we would go to football games, and they get pretty crazy. I think collegiate sport in America, it doesn't get televised as much, mm-hmm. but it's there's just as many fans, and people take it just as serious as the professional sports, because you have the whole university crowd backing them, like the whole school spirit in America. That's something very strong. We don't have that as much here in Brazil. And in some other countries in the world. So in the United States, this whole school spirit and the pride of where you go to school and the team, the sports that your school plays, it's something very big in America. So it was a lot of fun to go watch some basketball games and some football games.
So before we even start, since we talked about like the basketball, and we wanted to talk about the list of the most watched games in the United States, but before we do that, can you explain, since you said that you played a little bit of basketball, can you explain for us the hair, and what is this hair painting and what you did and what about that?
Yeah, so let's get that out of the way. So my hairdo, it's like a tribute, I guess, to Dennis Rodman. Dennis Rodman, he's still alive. Many people might remember the name. He was a very eccentric basketball player, but also a very top-level competitor. He was a very defensive player.
Yeah.
And he played in Detroit. He played in some other teams, but he's mostly remembered for playing with Michael Jordan in the Chicago Bulls. I think for sure, for at least 3 titles, I think he was part of the team, maybe more. And it was like the trio that's most remembered was Michael Jordan, Scottie Pippen, and Dennis Rodman, right?
Yeah.
Michael Jordan is the GOAT, which is one term that maybe we can explore later.
Anyone
and
knows?
I think it's being used in a lot of different languages. People are adapting this this term, which stands for greatest of all time. So Michael Jordan, I don't have much to say about him. He was just the greatest.
He's a beast.
A very offensive player, scored a lot of points. And Dennis Rodman was sort of like the pit bull of the team. He was the defensive player. So the story about the hair is Scottie Pippen was hurt for almost a year. He didn't play. And when he came back with his first game, Dennis Rodman painted his hair with 33s, which were Scottie Pippen's jersey number. So it was like a tribute to Scottie Pippen being back on the team. And then recently, Netflix released a very cool documentary on Michael Jordan, and it talks a lot about the other players. And I watched an episode where they talk a lot with Dennis Rodman. I was like, man, Dennis Rodman was so awesome because he really broke down a lot of stereotypes in sports. We're talking like 25 years ago. Before all the athletes had tattoos and painted their hair, now we are very used to this, right? We're very used to tattoos and crazy hair. But Dennis Rodman was really ahead of his time, and being an artist, I like this kind of stuff. So I like breaking boundaries. So it was just a little tribute, And I did a photo shoot with some friends. So they said, hey, why don't you do something cool with your hair? And I thought it was the perfect opportunity.
That's nice.
That's
nice. And definitely that team. I am watching these Netflix documentary as well. For everybody who wanted to watch as well, the name of the documentary is The Last Dance. So it's on Netflix. So you should watch it because it's very, very interesting how they tell the story of the team and the Michael Jordan, of course, because he was, as Guy said, was the GOAT. And I mean, it's super interesting how they prepare themselves, how the whole history, and how and you can see it as well, like the culture of the sports and the NBA, how it's strong and important for the American culture in general, right? And it's super interesting. So everybody, you should watch The Last Dance on Netflix. Amazing documentary. You should.
Yeah, you're spot on. Because it goes way beyond just the plays and what they accomplished. Like, people who are into basketball and know the history already know they won 6 championships. There were 2 three-peats, as they call them. They won 3, and then they won 3 again. But the documentary, like you said perfectly, it goes way beyond that. It shows the culture. It shows the injuries. It shows, like, the fights. and the personalities of the players and how much they matter to the team. He showed the fans and their reactions and how they loved Michael Jordan, and they would sell out every game and pack stadiums.
Yeah.
And he would show rivalries between Michael Jordan and players in other teams. It talks about when they went to the Olympics, and it was the first time NBA players played in the Olympics, and we still remember it as the Dream Team.
Yeah.
You know, it talks about Space Jam, and it just talks about so many cool things. So yeah, it's a great documentary. It's a great show. Good job, Netflix.
Definitely.
Yeah.
So let's talk about, I don't know, anyone who, do you guys have a guess about which are the 10 most viewed and watched sports in America? Do you have a guess about it? Please put someone here in the comments right now. Let's see if you guys can, at least put it right, one or two. One or two, I think you guys should know, but the whole list of 10 most important videos and sports watching in America, it's very interesting. So we're going to talk about these 10 most viewed, and then we're going to see at least some of the interesting things of the 3 most important ones, and that it's extremely important for the American culture in general. So the number one, I think, if you guys should know or not, the number one is NFL, right? NFL, it's the American football. It's I don't know. It's one of my favorite sports. I watched a lot, and when I moved to California, I never heard about it and the American football, but when I moved there, I was living very close by to the university stadium there. Then I started to get this sense of how important it is for the culture and how the sports, it's like how American football is strong and huge. And then that's why my team is the 49ers, so it's the San Francisco 49ers because it's where I lived. And so do you have any comments about the NFL and what's your favorite team? It's from Miami Dolphins or no?
Yeah, you have to represent your city, right? So yeah, NFL is huge in the United States, and I think you bring up a very good point. I think some sports, or probably all sports, have some level of interest by themselves, right? They're fun to play, they're dynamic, and it makes it an interesting sport, hobby, or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But I think what really makes a sport great, it's the whole competitive nature. It's the whole industry that's supporting it, the fans, the rivalries, the tournaments. Because the sports by themselves are okay. And like you said, maybe you had heard about American football before, but you didn't really understand it because it is a very complex game. There is a lot of different plays. There's a lot of different rules. So by itself, it's okay. It's fun. It's a pretty dynamic sport. Mm-hmm. But once you moved to the United States and you saw the whole scene, how much people are crazy about it,
yeah.
And they go to the games and they rally in sports bars, it's crowded, everyone's watching the game. You really start getting a feeling of like how much that game is actually important, and it starts making a lot more sense. You get like sucked into it. So that's really cool. The same thing like in most other countries in the world is with soccer. So in America, soccer is getting more popular.
Yeah.
But for many years, people didn't really pay much attention to it in the United States.
Mm-hmm.
But now that it's getting bigger, then people are like, oh, this is actually awesome. And it's great to see that stadiums are getting packed. And because I think, so much of the sport is the culture surrounding it.
Yeah, yeah, definitely.
But American football, for sure, the most popular.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
And then the second most watched sports in America comes to the MLB. That is the Major League Baseball. Is that correct? It's how I pronounce it.
Yeah.
So baseball,
exactly.
it's the one of the sports that you watch, then you realize at the same time you put it, oh, this is American sports. So it's a very interesting. I never been in a baseball field or watched the game live, but on television it's already it's another thing that when I was living there, I saw how, because by the time when I was living in the California, the San Francisco team from baseball, I forgot the name of the team, but they won the World Series, and I saw how the city completely stopped. Like they stopped doing parades and everybody on the streets and playing. And it's music everywhere, and that I saw like, whoa, this is huge. I never heard about anything about it before. So and when I came here, like they won the World Series, and it's incredible. Do you have any experience with the baseball, or do you ever played baseball before?
Yeah, I played very little, but it's a fun game. It's one of like you said, it's like a very American game for most people in the world. Although it is very popular in some other countries too, like Puerto Rico, it's super popular. In Cuba, it's very popular. In Japan, there's a great league. In Korea, so it's not just American, but we do kind of like think of it as more of an American game.
Mm-hmm.
It's a lot of fun. People love it. It's one of the sports, just like American football, and I guess we'll talk more about this later. It's one of those sports that is viewed a lot by everyone in America, but it's not played as much because of the infrastructure and the dynamics of the game requires a specific field sometimes. There are very specific positions that each player has to play.
Mm-hmm.
There's one team pitching, the other team is batting, so it's not so dynamic. And these are games that take a long time. So if you ever have the chance to go to a baseball game, it's a different experience than watching like a basketball game, let's say.
Yeah.
A basketball game or even a soccer game, for most people that are more used to this sport, it's a very fast-paced game. One team's attacking, one team's defending. It's action nonstop. And it lasts maybe for like 1.5 hours, 2 hours, and it's done. A baseball game has 9 innings, so they're like 9 tiempos or something. You know, it goes for a long time, and it's one team and the other team, one team and the other team. Wow. So the experience is more like going for a whole day event. You go with your friends or with your family. You eat some food, you have some beers, and it's kind of like a whole day event instead of being like 2 hours of a lot of action. You know? So it is a different experience. But it's great. It's a lot of fun to watch. You know.
Yeah. I mean, I can imagine that. So let's see that the third one that is, I think everybody should know about this one, NBA. So the basketball is the NBA and the baseball are both very equal in terms of the number of viewers on America. So, but it's but in this list that I saw, that I watched here, was doing some research, and this list brings the NBA on third. But I mean, everybody should know NBA. Probably you know Michael Jordan or Kobe Bryant, and those those are the Magic Johnson. Like those are like the goats of the sport. So
for sure.
So this is the probably that you said that this is the one that you played more. So what is your experience with the NBA?
Yeah, basketball is for sure of these American popular games. Basketball was my favorite because I think through all of my life, I have always enjoyed playing more sports than actually watching. I will watch, and it is entertaining. But I rather play, you know. And basketball in America is the most accessible game to play because it's so simple. All you need is a basketball, right? And all the parks have basketball hoops. And it's very popular, like you've probably seen in movies, for families to have a basketball hoop in front of their house, you know, in the driveway or in the street. It's very popular. You will walk down the neighborhood and you will see many houses with basketball hoops, you know?
Yeah.
And all you need is a ball and 2 kids to play, and you have a game. So it's like the most accessible game to play. It's very simple to play, just like soccer. So soccer, all you need are 2 goals. If you don't have goals, you put like 2 sandals or something and make a goal. And all you need is a ball, you know. It's so simple. So for sure, NBA, is the third in our list, very close with baseball.
Yeah.
But as far as the game that is mostly played as a hobby, I would say it's number one because it's just such an easy game to play. Not any complicated rules. You don't have to play a specific position. You just get 3-4 friends and you just play ball.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, and it's fast-paced, the game. Like football, American football, and baseball, it's a slower-paced game, right? There's a lot of action at moments,
mm-hmm.
and then there's a lot of break time.
Yeah.
So in football, there's like a very action play. The guy gets the ball, he's running down the field, there's tackles, and then maybe there's like 1 minute when they're talking it over, so it's like it stops and goes. Basketball, it's more fluent like soccer, I guess,
mm-hmm.
or like volleyball, or these other games that is just like hockey. Hockey is awesome as well. I think that's somewhere in the list.
Yeah.
It reminds me a lot of soccer. It's such fast-paced game, a lot of goals, a lot of attacking and defending.
Yeah.
It's more of my type of game,
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, basketball is amazing. And the NBA is also a super strong league.
Yeah, exactly.
One interesting thing about sports in America is that, let's say I'm from Miami, there's really all these different sports that you're really involved with. You really watch the Miami Dolphins,
mm-hmm.
and then you're really a big fan of the Miami Heat in basketball,
mm-hmm.
and you're also like, the Miami, the baseball teams. They have like you said, any of these three teams is champion.
Yeah.
It's like a party,
Yeah, exactly.
In a lot of other countries, it's like you love your football team, your soccer team. The other sports are cool, but, if my team wins the basketball league, it's okay. I don't care that much. But not in America. You have all these three teams that you really care about, these different sports.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's also interesting.
That's very interesting, actually, yes. And before we go to the fourth, I want to say everybody who is watching us on Instagram right now, just go to the link in our description on Instagram and click that we're going to continue just on YouTube, okay? So if you guys are on Instagram, just click on the link and go directly to our YouTube channel where we're going to continue this class, okay? And, okay, so let's go to the fourth one. And I think that, as you said, is one that is a lot of action. So the fourth most watched sports in America, it's the NHL, so the National Hockey League, right? Is that? I think is that.
Yeah.
So the NHL. So it's a very, very. There's a lot of action. Then people are used to see these spotlights and these best moments where players are throwing them into the glass, and there's a lot of fights and a lot of action, and it's actually quite true because you have to be tough to play this game.
Yeah, it's my favorite. Of all the sports in America, it's the one that I went to most live games to see.
Really? Interesting.
Yes, I love it. It's such a cool experience. It's such fast-paced game. And if you think of hockey players, like you said, there's a lot of aggression. There's a lot of hits and tackles. Sometimes there are fights, so they're allowed to take off their gloves and fight if they want to.
Mm-hmm.
These players, they're big guys. They're like football players. You don't realize it because they're wearing so much padding because you're on ice.
Mm-hmm.
But if you look at these athletes, like just wearing normal clothes, they look like American football players. They're big guys.
Yeah.
And at the same time, they can skate just like a figure skater, super fast and agile and graceful. So it's kind of crazy, these big, strong, tough guys, but who can skate super fast.
Uh-huh.
And you're like maneuvering the puck with a stick, so it's not even with your hands. So it requires like this different type of skill. You're using this other tool. And it's just such a fast game. It's amazing, and the games are very competitive. And the arenas are also really cool.
Yeah.
It's like a nice vibe, and it's really cold in there, so you wear a jacket. It's just such a different experience.
Yeah.
I love it. I love hockey. Yeah.
So yeah, that's super true. And as Eileen, and who's watching us, he said hockey maybe. Yes, hockey it is on the on the fourth. It's the fourth most watched sports in America. And Kobe,
Yeah.
there's one guy here called Kobe. Hey Kobe, he put it's like a list: football, baseball, basketball, soccer, tennis, and golf. You're pretty right. Get you get most of it. We're going to continue to see where on the list where there are those ones that you put it here. And
Yeah.
let's go to the fifth one as well, because I think in most countries, for at least here in Spain and in most countries in Latin America and Brazil, I hope it's the same as well. Probably this sport is the number one, and in American is not. So we're going to talk about now the soccer. Soccer is the fifth most watched sports in America, but it's not that. Until a few years ago, it was not that common, not that popular. But it's getting bigger and bigger. Like year after year, they are getting like huge and huge. And but here in Spain, it's like something that is crazy. And soccer is the number one sports by far. And I think in most countries in Latin America as well, and in Brazil, of course, as well, because all of us know a little bit of soccer in Brazil. So what is your what do you have to say about the soccer in America?
Yeah, so I'm Brazilian American, right? I have my Brazilian roots, so I love soccer.
Mm-hmm.
And in America, so America is such a big country too. So there are different states and different cities that will probably be way more into baseball, or in this city, it's way about football. I lived pretty much all my life in South Florida, in Miami, and it's such a melting pot of immigrants and Latin culture, and not just Latin culture, from everywhere in the world, but a lot of Latin influence, a lot of South Americans, a lot of people from Haiti as well, a lot of people from Mexico, all these other countries where soccer is the number one sport. So that cultivates a lot of soccer in these cities, So there's a lot of soccer fields. There's a lot of people playing pickup games. As far as being televised and watched at home, like the soccer league, right? The Major League Soccer.
Yeah.
For speaking just about like the main league and how people watch it, I think it's probably come up. Maybe 10 years ago, it wouldn't be on top 5. Soccer was way more associated. Although I have to say, with women's soccer, it has always been very popular.
Yeah.
But for some reason, there was more emphasis on the women's soccer than in the men's, because I guess Major League Soccer had to compete with the NFL, with baseball, with NBA. So there's a lot of other sports that are like so enrooted in the American culture. So I think maybe that's one reason there is more resistance for soccer to be up there. But I think a lot of big players, big names started going to America to play, like Wayne Rooney, David Villa. You have like Ibrahimovic. You have like all these players going to America to play, and that made it more popular. And nowadays, if you watch like the MLS games, you'd see full stadiums, people with flags. It reminds us a lot of like how soccer is outside of America. So I think it's definitely going up. People care more about the World Cup. Yeah. The World Cup in the United States was never something so popular. Some Americans watched it. Mostly people who have heritage and roots from outside of the United States. Yeah. But the average like American person didn't care that much about the World Cup. And now it's already being more popular. They are tuning in. They're watching more. Yeah. So that's very interesting,
Yeah, that for sure. And it's good to see that it's growing, and it's a huge sport. So in the whole world, if you take in a worldwide perspective, it's the most watched game in sports ever. So it's good to see.
There's this whole aspect to sports in America, which I think we will talk about as well at some point, which is sports related to school, sports related with education. This is like a big part of American athletes' and sports programs. Here in Brazil, for example, if you want to be a professional athlete, let's say a soccer player, the way you do that is usually going to a farm team, or you go to like play in Fluminense or Santos, like a big team, and you usually play since a kid for that team. That team has a program where young players can start playing since the age of 10, 12, 14, right? It's the same if you have like Real Madrid or Barcelona. You have like the young leagues, right? And that's how eventually, if you're good enough and you persist, you might become a professional player. In the United States, it's mostly through education. So you usually play for the sports team in your school. So your elementary school has a basketball team, a baseball team, a soccer team, a volleyball team. And then you go to middle school, high school. If you're a very good player in high school, then you might get a scholarship and you might go play for a university that has a big sports program. And then if you do really well in that college, then that's sort of the platform for you to go into professional sports. They have like the NBA draft, right? Or like the NFL draft.
Yeah.
And they draft these very good players from the university. If you are like a star talent, you might go even earlier from high school. But like school and sports are always like super integrated. So I would say for like these top 5 sports and even some other ones in our list, inside the school program, they're very present, you know, the whole time. So if you go to America and you are in middle school or you're in high school, they will have a good soccer program. They will have a good NHL. Some schools might have a hockey program. Depending on where you live, if it's hot or cold, they might have some more. NHL is interesting because it really mixes with Canada. It's like half and half. It's not just American. There's a lot of teams from Canada as well. You know, there's always a big basketball program. So that's very interesting. So throughout my whole life, I played in soccer teams in my school, you know, and it was great. It's a lot of fun. You get to practice, you get to make friends, you get to travel, you know. Unfortunately, I didn't follow through in that path because I didn't really want to be an athlete. I always played more for the love of it and just to enjoy it. But it is a possibility, you know. And the cool thing is, if you play basketball, even through college, and you don't become a professional athlete, you got a good education, you know. So they are forming professionals regardless if you become an athlete. And if you do become an athlete, after your career is done, because athletes tend to have a short career, right? By your mid-30s, you're already looking at retiring. Oh, this guy's getting old. He can't keep up. So, all right, maybe you finish your career, but you study business. So now you can work with your brand. You can work with your image. Maybe you study journalism. So now you can work as an announcer or you can become a manager. It really opens up doors for your career after the sports. Which is, I think, something that all countries should take note of and try to find ways to adapt that more into their culture.
Definitely agree. Couldn't agree more with you. It's one thing that I think it's one of the best ways how they do that in America is by putting that into the school system, like sports in school. It's very, very like they go together. It's not a separate thing. So it's even asked one of the questions here that I saw that's from Eileen, and she asked like, in which ways do schools promote sports if they do in America? And then you just said like they do, and it's huge. So it's you in see
America.
That.
So in America, most of the schools are public system schools, which is different to a lot of different countries. A lot of other countries might have a very big presence of private schools. And you might have like a student switching between schools a lot of times, you know. It's very fluid. In America, it's like the schools are bigger and they incorporate a lot of people from an area, from a city. So, you know, there's a lot of students from the same area. You get to know a lot of people that live around you. And the schools, they create sort of a sense of identity with that school. You know, which we call like a school spirit, right? And people take that, not everyone, obviously, but, you know, a lot of people tend to be very proud of their school, even like their middle school. Oh, yeah, I went to Woodlands Middle School, you know. It's sort of like something to be proud of. You create an identity with that school.
Yeah.
And you have all the sports in the school. And then the school has these things they call pap rallies, which are these there are these events that happen in the middle of a day during classes. They will cancel the classes and everyone goes to like the basketball gym. And they have the cheerleaders doing flips, and they have the school band playing music, and then you have the sports teams doing presentations. It's this whole thing about just like being proud of your school and getting to know the athletes that are playing in your school. And it's just about like creating school spirit and school pride. They have like the school yearbook where people like take pictures, and there's like all these events going. There's like this whole big culture about like
community, right? It's like a community.
Oh, community, exactly. And the school promotes a lot of the sport. So when you come to class in the morning, the first thing they do is they have a little TV in the classrooms that tells some news about the school. So they might say, yesterday the basketball team won against whatever other school by the score of this, and Tiago was the top scorer, congratulations. And let's say that the school mascot is the tiger. So they say, go Tigers, they really promote this type of atmosphere.
Yeah.
And, you have tryouts. So any student can try out for any sport. It doesn't mean you will get in, but you can try out. If you don't make the team, they have usually like a top team and a lower team. So you get to practice. They call it like a varsity team and a junior varsity team.
Mm-hmm.
So there's like a lot of opportunity,
Yeah.
And the cool thing is, for you to be part of the teams in your school, you have to maintain good grades. You can't be an athlete and be failing classes and not show up for classes. So this is part of the rule, right? For you to be in the basketball team, you need to have an average grade of a B or, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So that really motivates the students who are in the teams to keep up their good schoolwork,
Definitely.
So it really goes hand in hand, like you said, it's great.
That's amazing. It's a very strong culture that a lot of other countries should try to copy that and do it in their own way. But that's
for
interesting.
sure.
That's interesting. So let's say I saw, before we go into the sixth one here, I saw some comments that I thought it was very interesting. It's from a guy called Juan Carlos. So hi Juan. And he asked something very interesting because it's he put a few comments that I wrote down here, and it is, first he asked, who is the sport American reference right now, like the Messi or the Cristiano Ronaldo? So which one is for you in your opinion? And he even put it like that. And I always have admired the American sports, especially in the Olympic Games. I also saw great athletes like Michael Phelps and Carl Lewis, and of course Michael Jordan. But I don't know in this century a sports star like Messi. So which one do you think it's a reference right now? That's an interesting thing, like to see. Of course, Messi and Cristiano Ronaldo, they are like two super big stars in the sports world, because soccer is the most watched game in the world.
Yeah.
So which one do you think is an American reference in the sports?
That's a great question. I would say, like, as far as basketball, which is the sport that I still watch mostly, because I haven't been keeping up too much with sports as watching. But I think like the last greatest player might be, I think, LeBron James. I think he's like of the generation that is still playing. He is the GOAT, let's say, the MVP. There are other players who are very strong and they're very popular right now, but maybe they haven't had the same sequence as LeBron James. LeBron James is like very cemented, as well as Messi and Cristiano Ronaldo, right? We're talking about players who have won 6 times the best player of the world. It's not just a player who had a very good season, 1 or 2. We're talking about like the career as like maybe the best or second best. So I think LeBron James might be the guy.
Mm-hmm.
I think in American football, maybe Tom Brady. Tom Brady might be like the biggest icon, right?
Yeah, we're very actually we're at the same level because when I saw it, because I even saw there's another comment here from a guy, the Kobe, his name is Kobe, so Kobe Bryant could be like that. So if you're Kobe Bryant and watching us here, thank you. But Kobe, he asks like, who's your favorite NBA player at the moment? And I I thought at that time I thought, well, like, this is LeBron James, and LeBron James is the maybe like Stephen Curry. He's pretty good as well, but I mean,
Right.
LeBron James I cannot even describe how the guy is amazing. And from as the Juan Carlos question, okay, where he put it like the reference in a sport in general, like if you put it in the NFL, I would say like the Tom Brady as well, because Tom Brady is the guy who is we watch his career, he's persistent. He knows when it's not just a guy who is like pretty face and sometimes he do a pretty nice thing, and it's a guy who is in the Super Bowl in the end of the last quarter, and the guy keeps calm and then turn out the game and won the game. Like this is the type of the athlete that it's I don't know, it's different. So I would say the same as you, like LeBron James and the NBA, NFL, Tom Brady. It's the GOAT right now, right? Even like a lot of people, even that he changed his team now. He's not even in the New England Patriots anymore. He went to Buccaneers, I think. He signed.
Right, which is pretty crazy.
Yeah, he went to Buccaneers. So I'm very excited to see how this season will be. So let's see. And I in my team in the NFL, I said my team is the 49ers, and our quarterback now, it's the one that used to be the I don't know how to say that in English right now, but it's the one who was sitting waiting for Brady, who was the number 2 quarterback in the New England Patriots. So he went to San Francisco.
Bench. He was benching for.
Oh, benching.
Either bench. Or benching for. Right, it was like the second one.
Yeah.
Like
so he's the number 1 quarterback now in San Francisco 49ers. The guy was pretty good as well. We went last season to the Super Bowl. So we were very close. But I mean, so very interesting thing. So let's continue to the list. There's a lot of people who is interested in that. We're going now since it's a little bit nice sports that I don't know much about it, but I mean we can go a little bit and see what is happening. The 6th most watched one, it's tennis. So it is very common. I mean, if you watch it, I went once in New York. I went to what's the name of the well, it was a league, a very famous league, and it was in New York. And I watched a few players like doing that. Like, it's an interesting game. But when I saw Serena Williams, and she was, I mean, if I put it a GOAT in tennis right now in this women world, it is Serena Williams. She is amazing. That girl playing, it is huge. So it was a very interesting experience for me to watch her playing. So it was amazing. Do you have any experience with tennis?
Yeah, I've been to a match or two, and it's amazing. Even the sports that you don't gravitate to as much, when you watch top players performing, it's something amazing. You know, you just get a whole different sense of the ability of everything, of the athleticism. So like you said, I never saw, the Williams sisters play, but just on TV, you see so much power and so much technique.
Yeah.
It's almost scary,
Yeah.
So I'm horrible at tennis. But when you watch like the pros playing, it's so much of a dance between the two, it's like, it's one person putting their will against the others, it's because it's very interesting between these sports that there are no contact. It's not so much as like who can impose their physical will on the other. It's sort of like who is trying to outdo the other one. just technically, and by like putting a different pace and dynamics and changing things up. So it's very interesting game. Yeah. And it's probably, well, I think it is for sure in our list. It's like I guess the number one sport if you're thinking individually, right?
Yeah.
Not a team sport. It's like an individual sport, right? One-on-one. Well, maybe you could have couples. You could have 2 and 2. But for the most part, it's like an individual type of sport.
Yeah.
It's huge.
Yeah. So talking about like individual sports, the number 7, it's a very well known as well, but it's not a type of sports that I watch, but it's golf. So golf, it's the number 7 most watched game in sports in America. And yeah, well, I mean, I never watched a game. I don't know. Golf is not my type of sport, so I don't know if you have something to share with us about it, but I don't know much.
Yeah, I've never played much golf, but I think it's also something that when you're so young, it's not so appealing because you don't get to waste all that energy that we have, right? Mm-hmm. So again, I'm surprised that it's number 7 watched because I think it's another one of those sports that is just way more of a whole day activity. Mm-hmm. It's a very long day event, right?
Yeah.
So sometimes for you to sit there and watch a player put through 9 holes, it's like a long time. So it's one of those sports that I think it makes a lot more sense for people who enjoy playing because it's like a whole day activity. You just get with some friends and you go play for the whole day and you're like talking trash the whole time and you're making bets, and you're just enjoying a beautiful day. And so I think it's one of those sports that it makes a lot more sense for people to get into and playing. Mm-hmm. It's not so entertaining, for me at least, to watch it. Mm-hmm. Unless you really play it, because then you're looking for little nuances that I might not understand, right?
Yeah. Well, me too.
Yeah, like I enjoy watching chess, which I don't think it will be in this list because I'm a very avid chess player, so I love it. Mm-hmm. But for anyone who doesn't play and doesn't really get and understand the nuances that are going on, it's probably horrible to watch. It's like, oh my God, like, why am I looking at these 2 guys taking forever to move one piece,
Yeah.
So it might be like a similar category, golf. But I'm surprised it's number 7 because, it's like a slow-paced game.
Yeah, exactly. And going in the opposite direction, it's a very slow-paced game and sports. We're going to the number 8 that is super extreme fast-paced and extreme entertaining in a whole different level. This is wrestling and the WWE. I don't know how you say that. So wrestling is the number 8, and it's super. It's the entertainment in another level, I think. So, what do you have to say about wrestling and the WWE? It's a WWE. It's like a league. It's a national league or something like that.
Yeah, it's a league. So they used to have a couple different ones like NWO and WWE. I don't know exactly how it is right now because I don't really watch it, but that type of wrestling. It's borderline, like you said, it's so much entertainment that it's borderline theatrics, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, it is theatrical. It's like, I mean, these people are hitting each other for real. I've seen documentaries where people think it's completely fake. There is a level of theatrics. There is a level of persona and theater. But these guys are huge and they're hitting each other for real.
Yeah.
So people do get injured and there's a lot of things that go into it.
Yeah.
But it's different than like college wrestling. Just to make a difference here, I think we're talking about the watched one is the WWE type of entertainment, lucha libre, huge in Mexico where they have the masks,
Yes.
I think a lot of influence came from that, so that's huge. Mm-hmm. There is also wrestling, which is like Greco-Roman fighting, which is sort of like what you see in the Olympics, which is about pinning each other down. Mm-hmm. And that's huge also in like high school and in college. And a lot of these people are going into like UFC and mixed martial arts, right? We have like a lot of players who or even Olympians, right?
Mm-hmm.
Who
Yeah.
become great champions in the UFC. Can't remember his name right now, but the guy who's like a big rival of John Jones. I can't believe I forgot his name.
I don't know.
I haven't watched it in a while. But yeah, so like a lot of these great successful mixed martial arts fighters come from a wrestling background because it really teaches you how to impose rhythm and stuff. So that's a little different than like the WWE type of wrestling.
Yeah.
Which a lot of people from college wrestling too, and that's why they're big and they get into that. But it's huge though. It's huge. Kids go crazy.
Yeah.
It's almost like a telenovela. You know, you watch it every day to see like who's champion now and tomorrow what's going to happen. And there's always some crazy plot twists. It's a lot of energy.
Yeah, I saw that like the Rock, right? The Rock came from the WWE, right?
The Rock came from that. Huge. A lot of other great like classic WWE fighters from when I was growing up, and I used to watch it more. There was like Goldberg, there was The Crow, there was like all these great fighters, and it's crazy. Like I didn't get it really when I like first started watching. Like, why do my friends love this thing so much? But it's more like it's just entertainment, you know. It is.
But yeah, that's true. It's another level of entertainment. And so let's go to the number 9. And the number 9, it's I like very much because I like speed. So the number 1, it's NASCAR. So it's everything around NASCAR. So NASCAR, it's a huge as well. Like it's a type of racing that it's in other countries should be a lot related to the Formula One, or there's other kinds of racing types. But in America, it's NASCAR, and NASCAR it's huge. I had for PlayStation the NASCAR thing, and I really like to play it. So it is nice. I really wanted to go and watch a real race. It should be very interesting. Even though like they're racing on circles, but the speed that they go, it's crazy. It's crazy. So yeah, it's the number 9.
I think it's very different. Well, it's not very different. It's racing, but it is different than like Formula One, for example, which is more popular outside of the United States. It's what most people will like, think of when they think of like racing.
Yeah.
Like you said, it's an oval, and there's like hundreds of laps, and there's a lot of cars on the track. So there are crashes all the time, and it's just like I think it's crazy. I don't know. I couldn't drive in a circle for more than 10 times probably without getting dizzy or like relaxing, because you can't relax. At the same time, it's so repetitive, but it's so much action going on. It must be crazy.
Yeah.
I think it's another sport that it's hugely popular in America. A lot of people watch it, but it tends to be a little more regional. Mm-hmm. So I think the reason why NFL and baseball and NBA are top 3, it's because they're very national sports. Any city with any background in any area of the United States, people love it.
Yeah.
I think NASCAR starts to getting a little more regional. It's still throughout the United States, but there's like maybe a specific type of culture or people who are raised watching it who really consume NASCAR. I had a friend from high school. His name was Mark. And every time I would go to his house, his dad was always watching NASCAR, always. And around the TV, he had all the statues and the cars, and he had posters, cards. He was a huge NASCAR fan, And that was like his weekend was sitting down, drinking a beer, and watching NASCAR. That was it. I was like gold for him,
Yeah. That should be very interesting because it's another type of sports that it takes you. Probably people who go to see that on live. It's one day event. It's not just go there.
Yeah.
People
another one of those sports. Exactly.
People stay there in the parking lot during barbecues.
Get some food, make some barbecue. Exactly. Yeah.
So yeah, it's a very interesting way. I really wanted to see a NASCAR race one day. So let's see how that.
Yeah. Let's make it happen. Let's do a Cambly NASCAR trip.
That could be very interesting. That could be very interesting. Like a
Yeah,
session.
People.
I would say that to my boss. Let's see what she's going
All
to
right.
say.
Yeah, bring it up. We'll do a live class from NASCAR with like earplugs. It's probably super loud.
Yes, of course. And so let's go to the last one. It's the 10th most watched that I never expected. It's the one that I really never expected would be in here in the list. But it's badminton. So badminton, it's the number 10 on people watching on United States, and it's like it's a similar way. It's like a tennis, but it's a court, and I mean I don't know the difference, but it's played in a different way. But I never played, so it's I don't know. I didn't expect that to be the number 10. So, do you have something to say about it?
Never watched it. I know it's kind of like tennis, but with like
it's a small,
not really a ball.
It's a smaller, yeah, it's a smaller racket. I think it's not a ball. It's I don't know. I really don't know much about that.
I don't even know what they call it. But yeah, it is surprising. What would you say would be number 10 if it wasn't badminton? What would you have guessed? I'm just curious.
I would say. I would say something since like Michael Phelps was so popular around the world. Mm-hmm. I would say it's like swimming would be like the how say it, swimming, or how do you say the?
That's swimming.
Yeah, swimming.
Yeah, but I don't know how much swimming. I mean, your brother is a swimmer, so he might know more. But is he still swimming? Is he still competing?
Yes, he is.
For all of you who don't know, Thiago has an athlete brother who is a great swimmer.
Yeah, here in Spain, yes. But even though, like now they went like without 3 months without training or something because we're all closed,
right.
Like the pools.
How is he practicing in the bathtub? I mean, he's like 2 meters tall. He can't even fit in the bathtub.
No, it was impossible. It's not. Now he's coming back. Like the whole team is coming back. So he's from the team in Catalonia here. So because my family lives in Barcelona, and so they're from the team, from the Catalonia team. But they were stopped. Everything, the whole championship was stopped. Like everything stopped. So I don't know. Let's see how it will go back again. But for now, that's one of the things I would say. Like probably I would suggest swimming because there's like the World Series as well. There's the World Championship. There's not just the Olympics. So
See, I don't know much about like the competitions.
Yeah, and for universities in America as well, there's a lot of scholarships for swimmers. So that's
it's next level when it comes to like funding in sports and supporting athletes.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm a little surprised that volleyball is not in there. Volleyball is a very popular sport, and it's very popular between men and women. You know, so I'm a little surprised.
Yeah, for example, here in Spain, I know that like the 3 most watched would be soccer, and basketball, and volleyball. Like those 3 are like the top watched sports here. And so I would not. I don't know about in Latin American or something, but in volleyball as well, it's something that extremely well known, and so I know like in Brazil they have a very good team, and for Latin America there's some countries that is huge. Volleyball is huge as well, and and if Spain, of course, they are. So as Spain, they are very known about the basketball teams as well. They're very 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 famous here as well. And let's see, like I saw there's a few comments here. Cobb again, he's asking, what is the highest paid sports in America? I would say like if you put everything together, probably like the NBA, they have the most like the high paid sports for athletes, because in the NFL they have since they are like, I don't know, because NFL they like the teams, they have like I don't know how many players. So
Right.
if you take that out, probably just the quarterback's the one that's making just a huge amount. This like to be in the top list of the high paid athletes on the world. But if you take NBA, I think I would say NBA is the ones that you put it on.
Yeah, interesting point. I think between NFL, like the baseball, football, and basketball, I think maybe overall basketball on average makes more. And then I would say football and then baseball and then the other sports. But I think that individual athletes sometimes make more money. So I would say maybe like Tiger Woods would be number one.
Yeah.
And then maybe like Michael Phelps. Because they're individual sports and they make a lot of money also from sponsors and things like that. Mm-hmm. Because there's so much highlight on you when you're the champion and you're like, it's an individual sport, so you are the guy, sports teams, usually you do have like the LeBron James and like Stephen Curry. You have these guys who probably make a lot of money as well. But like you said, it's a team sport and there's a lot of players and there's things like salary cap in the leagues, right? So the teams have like a salary cap. So the money that they make outside of that probably has to come into like sponsorships, and if they're making like deals with shoes or commercials, advertising, all these other things, probably products. But I would guess that maybe like Tiger Woods. I don't know if he still plays. I haven't been keeping up.
Yeah, I saw Tiger Woods was for like the best, like the highest paid athlete in the world for I think 2 years in a row in 2008, I think, or something like that, 2008 to 2010.
Yeah, his prime maybe, yeah.
He was the highest paid athlete in the world by far. And then there came a lot of these problems that he had before. And then he came back, I think, like 2 years ago. I think he came back. Right, but I mean, it's something. This is a kind of sports that I don't know much about it. But it's I know about Tiger Woods because he was actually the highest paid athlete. Michael Phelps, I don't think that he made it to the highest paid athletes list, but he made a lot of money. So
he made a lot of money. And he got a lot of sponsorships dropped too, and there was like some controversy involving some substances.
Yeah.
But he was like up there, like Olympian. He's like the most accomplished Olympian in history
of all times. Yeah, from all of sports.
But I think like the highest paid athlete today in the world is probably like Lewis Hamilton, because I think Formula One makes so much money. It's just so much money involved. So I would say that he's number one. I could be wrong, but I think I read that some time ago.
And then I would say, I don't know about the list, but I would say like Cristiano Ronaldo or Messi are the two. I saw something, I think this week or past week, that Cristiano Ronaldo he became the first soccer player to become a billionaire. So I would say like if Cristiano Ronaldo or Messi are the highest paid athletes in the world. I would suggest that, and Cristiano Ronaldo because he has a huge amounts of other stuff. So in Portugal, he invested a lot of and he became like this. This is a list. I watched these. I don't know. It was this week or something. So he became the first soccer player to become a billionaire. So
it's hard to separate things because there's the highest paid. That means that's the money he gets to play the sport, and there is the richest, the wealthiest, right?
Yeah.
So maybe I don't get paid as much as you, but I made all these businesses and I have a brand and I'm investing in like real estate and now I have an empire and I'm a billionaire.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean I'm higher paid than you.
Yeah.
It means that I made more with my money. So who gets paid more? I'm not so sure.
Yeah, well, probably that's a
has
good
the biggest contract.
Yeah, that's good. Yes, yeah. So thinking about this way, probably like Lewis Hamilton. I would say Messi, Lewis Hamilton, of course, because he actually is number one in Formula One right now. LeBron James probably. Like
these top athletes, like Tom Brady in his prime. I don't know now with this new deal that he got. These top athletes of the biggest. Like maybe like Neymar was up there at some point because his contract was super expensive.
Yeah.
Others of that caliber, I would say.
Yeah.
Interesting question.
But well, let's see. I mean, we already have more than 1 hour of live, so I think we already been on the 10 most watched sports in America, and I think there's still a lot of comments and a lot of people who still want to know more about it. And I think we should do that one more time, and one more live session to talk about
Sure.
other tips and more interesting things about sports and how we call one. I mean, there's one way of saying something for the NBA, and then you have the other way of saying something for NFL. So maybe it would be interesting for us to do more of those live sessions talking about sports. And if you guys have any more comments, please put it on the comments below here. Put it a like, and then we'll be able to have more ideas to bring for the future live sessions here. Okay, and yeah, I mean, do you have anything to say, Guy, for everybody?
Yeah, I think it was a great topic. I agree with you. We should do another session, and I think this one we talked about more the culture of sports in America and what is televised, and we talked a little bit about everything. And I think it would be interesting to do another one talking more about vocabulary within each sport, like you said. You know, when we say throw or shoot,
Yeah.
like just different scoring terms. Like we use the word like lingo. It's like, you know, just the specific vocabulary with each different sport. I think that would be very interesting. And of course, using comments and questions that our viewers are going to leave us, so we have more material and more interesting things to talk about. Staying on this topic of sports, which I think it gives us a lot to talk about.
Yes,
And
of course.
yeah, I would like to thank everyone for tuning in. Like, share, comment. Please join us next time, of course. Come see me in Cambly. Come do your free lesson. You know, they're giving you 3 minutes. Take it. You know, use it. English is so important nowadays. It is the universal language. The classes are a lot of fun. You're very instructive. We can stay on the topic of sports if you want to ask me some questions, you know. But yeah, I would just really like to thank you and Cam for the opportunity once again. I love doing these. You're a lot of fun. So yeah, thank you. Thank you, Thiago.
All right, that's nice. That's nice. So everybody, guys, thank you so much for being here, and don't forget to put the comments out down here for us to have more ideas. And it was very nice to have you all, and then we'll continue with this topic of sports that is super interesting, and there's a lot more to talk about. And so see you guys next week, and be safe. Okay, bye bye.
All right.
Adios.
Adios.